The cryptic letters killer. 9 vanished. And then he sent one final message. 9 people disappeared. No bodies. No suspects. No leads. Just a series of strange, cryptic letters, each one arriving before the next person vanished. And the very last letter? It ended with just 6 words. You were never looking closely enough. This is the unsolved mystery of the cryptic letters killer, a case that left a town in terror, investigators bewildered, and 9 families still waiting for answers. It began, like so many nightmares do, with something so small it was almost dismissed entirely. A letter. No return address. Hand-delivered. Not mailed. Dropped through the slot of a small, unassuming antique bookstore in the quiet town of Halewick, Illinois. The letter was written on yellowing, brittle paper. The handwriting, precise, old-fashioned cursive. Its contents. 1 gone. Not random. Not chance. This is the first of 9. Watch the water. The bookstore's owner, Henry Vale, thought it was a joke. A prank from one of the college kids who hung around his shop. He handed it over to police, almost as an afterthought. They filed it away and forgot about it. 3 days later, 27-year-old Samantha Lorne disappeared after her night shift at the hospital. Her car, found abandoned near the Halewick River. No signs of struggle. No witnesses. Just gone. And suddenly, the words "watch the water" didn't seem so harmless anymore. What followed was a pattern so precise, so cold, it felt orchestrated. 2 weeks later, another letter. 2 down. You think you know this place. You don't. I walk freely. A local bartender disappeared. No struggle. No evidence. His phone, wallet, and car keys were left neatly arranged on his kitchen table, as if waiting for him to return. By the 3rd disappearance, the letters were being leaked to the public. Fear spread faster than answers. Was this some disgruntled ex-cop? A serial killer? A cult? Speculation churned through the town like wildfire. Theories ranged from the ridiculous to the terrifying. A secret society from Halewick's dark past. A former asylum patient seeking revenge. A police insider orchestrating everything from within. But the police had nothing concrete. No patterns between victims. No evidence at the scenes. Only those damned letters. 3 now. You're too busy looking backwards. It was almost as if the writer was mocking the entire investigation. With each victim, the letters became less about taunting the public, and more about giving warnings, clues that no one seemed able to decode. After the 6th person vanished, things took a disturbing turn. The letter didn't talk about the police or the town. It focused on one person. You missed the signs. You ignored the quiet one. Attention turned to a man named Arthur Bell. A recluse in his 50s, Arthur was odd but harmless, or so people thought. He lived alone, rarely spoke, and had been seen, coincidentally or not, near the scenes of 2 of the disappearances. Police searched his home and found nothing incriminating, except for shelves filled with books on cryptography and codebreaking, most of them missing pages. Arthur Bell disappeared 2 nights later. Victim number 7. The final 2 letters came fast. 8 is silent now. The final will be loud. Then. You were never looking closely enough. The 9th disappearance wasn't what anyone expected. It wasn't a young woman walking home alone. It wasn't someone with ties to any of the previous victims. It was Henry Vale. The man who received the first letter. The man who'd been there from the beginning. Gone. His bookstore was left eerily untouched. Register still open. Lights on. And on the counter, a single book. A dusty, brittle volume on ancient cryptography. A torn page had been carefully taped back in. Scrawled across it, in that same precise cursive. All stories end with the storyteller. No sign of Henry. No blood. No forced entry. Just gone. 9 people. 9 disappearances. No bodies. No confessions. No fingerprints. Nothing. The case went cold. The town tried to move on. But rumors persist. Some say the letters still arrive in Halewick from time to time. Blank sheets of yellowing paper. No words. Just waiting. Waiting for what? No one knows. Or maybe, waiting for who? Because what no one wants to talk about is that there was a 10th letter. One the police never released to the public. A letter that didn't go to Henry Vale. Or the bookstore. Or the police. It went to someone else. And it said only this: 10 is already chosen. The cryptic letters killer. The 10th victim was already chosen. 9 people gone without a trace. A series of cryptic letters. And then, one final, chilling note. 10 is already chosen. But who was number 10? And why did the police keep this letter a secret from the public? Because the answer wasn't just terrifying. It was humiliating. Number 10 was one of their own. Detective Marcus Hale, lead investigator on the case. The letter had been found taped to the inside of his front door. No signs of forced entry. No witnesses. No fingerprints. Just a single piece of yellowing paper, written in the same precise, taunting handwriting as all the others. 10 is already chosen. He's been watching you too. The department went silent. Internally, they scrambled. Externally, they said nothing. Detective Hale continued working the case, knowing, or pretending not to know, that he was being hunted. And then, just like the others, he vanished. No forced entry. No blood. No struggle. His car was still in the driveway. His phone left charging by the bed. The door locked from the inside. All that remained was a fresh letter, this time pinned directly to his pillow. You didn't listen. You never listen. The stories keep ending because you refuse to read them properly. The investigation falls apart. With Hale gone, panic seeped deeper into the cracks of Halewick's foundation. 9 people missing had been terrifying. But now, a cop? The cop who had been leading the investigation? The town's trust in law enforcement collapsed almost overnight. Rumors spun faster than facts. People began drawing connections where there were none, seeing patterns in shadows that didn't exist. Some believed the killer was inside the police department itself. Others whispered about secret societies, old rituals, and occult histories buried beneath Halewick's seemingly quaint streets. But one question remained louder than the others. Why those 9? And why Hale? What tied them together? Why these specific people? A terrifying revelation. A rookie officer named Kendra Boyd was the one who stumbled onto something everyone else had missed. While combing through the unsolved disappearances again, she noticed something strange. It wasn't what the victims had in common. It was where they had vanished. Each disappearance occurred within sight of an old rusting water tower on the outskirts of town. Long decommissioned, fenced off, forgotten by most. The first woman by the river. The bartender's apartment overlooked it. Arthur Bell's home? Right beneath it. Even Henry Vale's bookstore, visible from the tower's highest point. And Detective Hale? His house was just beyond its shadow. There had been a clue in the very first letter. Watch the water. Not the river. The water tower. The descent into the tower. Boyd brought this to her superiors. They brushed her off. Coincidence, they said. No cause to pursue it further. But Boyd couldn't shake the feeling. Late one night, she drove out there alone. Flashlight. Gun. Radio. And something else. The first letter, which she'd taken from the evidence locker without permission. The fence had been cut. Not recently. Rust along the edges suggested years of neglect. Inside, the tower's base was empty, except for a narrow rusted ladder leading up into darkness, scrawled in black paint across the metal near the base. Still watching. She climbed. The higher she went, the more the air seemed to press against her lungs. The hatch at the top was unlocked. Inside, darkness, cold, and something worse. 9 chairs, all placed in a perfect circle, each one marked with a number, from 1 to 9, each with a single item left on the seat. A bracelet, a set of keys, a shoe, a badge, trophies from the missing. But there was a 10th chair, in the center, facing all the others, empty, except for a mirror, propped up where the head of the missing 10th person would sit, and written across the glass, in smeared, shaking black ink, "Read properly." In the reflection behind her, movement. Someone else was in the tower. Boyd's radio crackled to life. A voice, distorted, wrong somehow, whispered through. 11 is watching you now. Cut to black. The cryptic letters killer. 11 is watching you now. Detective Kendra Boyd didn't know if it was adrenaline or terror, but in that moment, standing beneath the rotting beams of the Halewick water tower, hearing that distorted voice hiss through her radio, 11 is watching you now. She realized something horrifying. She wasn't alone. Not just in the tower. Not in this investigation. Not in this town. Someone had been watching her. From the start. She swung her flashlight in every direction. Empty chairs. Silent trophies. The mirror in the center now fogging slightly, as if breathing hovered just beyond it. But no person. No movement. Just that feeling crawling up her spine like ice. She was being watched. What happened after Boyd left the tower? Boyd didn't file an official report about the tower. She told no one about the chairs, the items, the mirror, because the truth terrified her more than any of them would believe. Whoever orchestrated this was still active, still inside Halewick, still watching. The following day, another letter arrived. This time, hand-delivered to the police station's front desk. No envelope, no pretense, just a folded scrap of yellowing paper, handed over by a teenager, who claimed an old man gave it to her outside and said, "Deliver this before 11, or you'll be next." The letter read, 10 was always temporary. 11 isn't who you think. Watch the storyteller. It was signed with something new. A symbol. A crude circle with a single horizontal line through the center. Detective Boyd had seen it before. Scratched into the underside of the mirror frame inside the water tower. The town's darker history unfolds. As Boyd dug deeper, connections emerged. Not between the victims. Not between the police. But between the locations. The missing 9. Their last known locations formed a perfect circle on a map. The water tower, dead center, Detective Hale's house, the exact midpoint between chair number 9 and chair number 10, and Henry Vale's bookstore, built directly over the ruins of Halewick's first public library, which had burned down in 1922, in what local legend claimed was an unsolved arson tied to occult activity. The same symbol from the letter, found etched into the cornerstone beneath the ruins. A circle with a line through it. The old symbol for closure. Or sealing something in. Who is the storyteller? Boyd returned to the abandoned bookstore. Inside, dust hung thick. Books left in place as if their readers might return at any moment. And then, in the center aisle, something new. A book that shouldn't have been there. Not on any inventory list. Not logged in evidence. Its cover was blank. Its pages, all empty. Except for one, dead center, written in the same precise, curling script. Read properly. The end is not the end. 11 is not the last. At the very back, scrawled like a warning. The storyteller speaks next. And on the final page, Detective Boyd's name. Her full name. Written in ink that was still wet. A terrifying realization. Boyd checked the evidence from Henry Vale's disappearance again. There had been 10 letters in total, but now there were 11 chairs. And Boyd was beginning to understand. The killer wasn't counting victims. They were counting players. Whoever started this story wasn't just taking people. They were writing something. A sequence. A ritual. And it wasn't over. The next move. That night, Boyd's radio cracked again. The same distorted voice. But now, clearer. More deliberate. The storyteller speaks at midnight. 11 is waiting. 12 is listening. 13 is ready. Boyd checked her watch. 11:57 p.m. A knock at her front door. Slow. Precise. 3 taps. Pinned beneath the doorframe. Another letter. Midnight. Read aloud. Or vanish like the rest. Inside the envelope, a name she recognized. A name she hadn't heard connected to the case. A name that should have been impossible. Her own father. Missing since 1997. Declared dead. But beneath it, written in fresh ink, 13 is already chosen. The cryptic letters killer. 13 is ready. The story ends here. Or does it? Detective Kendra Boyd stood frozen in her doorway. Pinned beneath her doorframe was the letter. Inside, her father's name. Her father. Missing since 1997. Presumed dead. And beneath his name, written in that familiar, curling ink, 13 is already chosen. For the first time, Boyd realized something terrifying. This wasn't just a killer picking random victims. This was a story. A ritual. A design. And it had been writing itself around her since before she was born. Pieces falling into place. Boyd dug deeper into her father's past. He wasn't just any man. He had been a detective in Halewick, assigned to investigate a case almost identical to the one Boyd was chasing now. 9 people vanished. Letters sent. And a final message that simply read, "The storyteller speaks again soon." Her father had gone missing before he could finish the investigation. Boyd wasn't the first to play this game. But she might be the last. The water tower's secret. Determined to break the cycle, Boyd returned to the water tower. This time, she wasn't alone. She brought forensic techs, cameras, backup. The chairs were gone. The mirror, shattered. But carved into the concrete floor beneath where the center chair had sat was something new. Coordinates. A remote stretch of woods. A place locals whispered about but no one visited anymore. Black Hollow. Once the site of the original Halewick settlement. A town wiped off the map in the early 1900s after a series of unexplained disappearances. At Black Hollow, Boyd found something waiting for her. An old trapdoor. Rotting wood. Iron lock rusted shut but broken from within. Beneath it, a staircase spiraling deep underground. The underground chamber. Boyd descended alone. Her flashlight flickered against damp stone walls lined with names. Hundreds of names. Some crossed out. Some circled. At the very center, a table. On it, an open book. Blank pages. Except one. Scrawled in familiar ink. 13 completes the circle. But the circle must open to begin again. Beside the book, a mirror, unbroken. And in its reflection, something standing behind her. She turned. Nothing. But beneath the table, a box. Locked. Numbered. 13. Inside, what she found shattered everything she thought she knew. The horrifying truth. Photographs. Her father. Alive. Older. Watching her from the shadows. Surveillance notes tracking every victim from the beginning. Letters written in her father's handwriting. The cryptic letters killer wasn't some faceless phantom. It wasn't a cult. It wasn't random. It was him. Her father. Or something wearing his face. And one final note, left just for her. The storyteller never dies. He simply waits for the next reader. Welcome home, Kendra. The voice returns. Boyd's radio buzzed to life. Not static. not distortion. A voice, calm and familiar. 14 watches. 15 listens. 16 waits beneath the floor. The story does not end. You were never the reader, Kendra. You were always the next chapter. And then, silence. Except for footsteps. Behind her. Coming closer. Boyd's flashlight dies. Total darkness. A hand, cold, skeletal, grabs her shoulder. Fade to black. One final message scrawls onto the screen. The end is only the beginning. The cryptic letters killer. The end is the beginning. Final chapter. Darkness. Silence. Cold fingertips on her shoulder. Detective Kendra Boyd didn't scream. She didn't run. Because somehow, deep down, she'd expected this moment her entire life. When her flashlight flickered back to life, there was no one there. Just the mirror. And in its cracked reflection, her father's face. Smiling. But wrong. Not older. Not aged. Just as he had looked the day he vanished in 1997. The truth beneath Halewick. Beneath the water tower, beneath Black Hollow, beneath all the disappearances, was something older than Kendra ever imagined. Not just a killer. Not just a man. A cycle. A ritual. A story that feeds itself. Her father hadn't vanished. He'd been claimed. By something ancient. Something tied to the land Halewick was built on. It started with the original settlers. Disappearances. Letters. Each generation, the ritual repeats. 9 vanish. The 10th is chosen to keep the story going. The 11th becomes the storyteller. The 13th ensures the cycle repeats. Why? Because fear feeds it. Attention feeds it. Stories feed it. The letters weren't clues. They were instructions. The disappearances weren't random. They were sacrifices. And Kendra? She wasn't here to solve it. She was here to replace him. Her father. The final choice. On the wall before her, written in blood or ink, she couldn't tell which, was the choice. 2 paths. Write. Be written. Her father appeared. Or something wearing his face. He spoke softly. We never die, Kendra. We just turn the page. He handed her a pen. The same black ink from the letters. The blank book lay open. If she wrote, she would control the next cycle. She would survive. But if she refused, she would become the 14th. Her name crossed out on the wall. Her soul trapped here, just like the others. The entity behind it all didn't care who the storyteller was. Just that the story never ended. The ending no one expected. Kendra wrote 3 words. The story ends. The walls shook. The lights flickered. Something screamed, not human, not animal, something old and furious. The ground beneath her feet cracked. And just as the darkness swallowed her, a single, final letter appeared on the table. For the next person to find. For the next cycle to begin. One gone. Not random. Not chance. Watch the water. The final twist. For your audience. The Halewick water tower has since been demolished. The site has been cleared. Nothing unusual was found. No signs of the underground chambers. No evidence of Kendra Boyd. No evidence anyone ever went missing. But a bookstore recently reopened in town. Under new management. No one knows who owns it. But sometimes, customers find strange old letters tucked between the pages. Yellowing paper. Perfect cursive handwriting. And every so often, someone new just disappears. The end is never the end. Watch the water. Thank you for watching this twisted journey into the unknown. If you thought this story was chilling, ask yourself, who's writing your story? And have you been reading it properly? Like, subscribe, and stay vigilant.